All right, let's just dive right into this. I want you to imagine your mind as a block of really soft clay. From day one, society, your parents, your friends, they're all essentially molding this initial mask for you. It's the face you show the world. But reaching the absolute highest level of consciousness, well, that requires taking that plasticine mask, melting it completely down, and sculpting your true, authentic self. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to explore the profound and, honestly, sometimes difficult signs that you are actually reaching that ultimate psychological peak. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the quest for true wholeness, shedding your persona, embracing the shadow, tapping into universal archetypes, and finally, individuation. Basically, we're decoding the brilliant theories of Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, step by step, to help guide you toward true self-realization. Okay, to really grasp what higher consciousness means, we need to do a quick face-off between two absolute titans of psychology. Sigmund Freud, as you probably know, viewed the unconscious mind mostly as a storage vault, a place for repressed trauma and biological drives, especially sexual and aggressive ones rooted in our past. But Carl Jung, he took a way more expansive view. He argued that we're actually pulled forward by meaning, by purpose, and this universal spiritual energy. Jung believed in a collective unconscious filled with inherited wisdom. So to him, our minds aren't just dumping grounds for bad memories. They're literally the birthplace of myths, magic, and massive personal growth. So, what kicks off this whole process? Let's get into section 1, the quest for true wholeness. You know that classic midlife crisis everyone talks about, usually hitting around age 35 or 40? Jung didn't see this as a bad thing at all. Actually, he thought it was completely necessary and highly beneficial. It's that moment you suddenly realize that external success, money, or the ego-driven goals of your 20s just aren't doing it for you anymore. Sound familiar? You basically have to abandon those shallow pursuits to find true internal wholeness. It's this fundamental, unavoidable shift from the material world to the spiritual and philosophical. You're finally attempting to figure out what your life actually means. And Jung actually saw this journey happening in 4 distinct steps. First up is confession, that huge sense of catharsis you get from just getting your deepest secrets off your chest. Then you move to elucidation, where you examine your symptoms and figure out exactly where your personal development stalled out. That flows right into education, where you start actually adapting those new insights into your daily routine. And finally, the big one, transformation. That's the start of individuation, a total restructuring of who you are. But to even begin that transformation, we have to deal with the very first roadblock. Section 2, shedding the persona. You'll know you're genuinely on the path when you start peeling away this persona. Think of the persona as that rigid clay mask we talked about earlier. You sculpt it just to fit in. It's a complex system that mediates between you and society. It's exactly who everyone expects you to be. But here's the danger. That character mask is specifically designed to hide the true nature of who you really are. Because if you cling too tightly to this mask, like, say, a teacher who can't stop lecturing their spouse at home or an executive who treats their kids like employees, you risk becoming totally disconnected from your own reality. Jung warned that over-identifying with your persona leads straight into a neurotic, narcissistic alienation. So shutting these false wrappings isn't just a good idea, it's an absolute requirement for psychological evolution. You have to let the mask drop to see what's underneath. Which brings us to the most daunting, yet absolutely crucial phase of our development. Section 3, embracing the shadow. The second major sign you're leveling up your consciousness is your willingness to look directly into your own darkness. This is your shadow. It holds all the repressed, unknown parts of your personality, those animalistic, socially unacceptable urges that you've buried deep in the swampland of your mind. Now, we all have a shadow, and spoiler alert, ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. It just means it's controlling you from behind the scenes. Jung had this incredible quote: "The meeting with oneself is, at first, the meeting with one's own shadow." And let me tell you, when you first meet this dark side, it is not a fun experience. It usually triggers this super confusing stagnation, like your moral compass is just completely melting down. Ancient alchemists actually called this disorienting stage negrito, the blackness. It's this tight, painful passage where literally everything you thought you knew about your own goodness is thrown into question. But here is the crazy paradox about all this. By holding on to that tension, confronting your inner demons actually illuminates your good qualities. As Jung noticed, if you can perceive your shadow and your light at the exact same time, you're seeing yourself from both sides, which drops you right into the middle.
You enter this beautifully balanced, centered state where you are no longer tossed around by extremes. You stop projecting your own garbage onto other people and finally take radical responsibility for your whole self.
And once you've braved that shadow, you unlock something incredible. Section 4. Tapping Universal Archetypes.
You will definitely know you're hitting a higher level when you start tapping into what Jung called the collective unconscious. Remember how Freud thought the unconscious was just your personal dumping ground? Jung realized it goes so much deeper than that. Beneath our own memories is a shared ancestral bedrock. It's filled with memory traces passed down through our entire evolutionary history. This collective unconscious is literally the birthplace of every myth, fairy tale, and God ever conceived, and it's shared by every single human being.
And this deep, ancient realm is populated by archetypes. Think of them as recurring themes that act like a built-in cast of characters in our minds. We've already met the persona and the shadow, but there's also the anima or animus, which is your inner, feminine, or masculine side. And then there's the ultimate boss, the self, which represents the total overarching picture of who you are. These aren't just academic concepts. They dictate how you perceive the world and how you act every single day.
When these archetypes suddenly bubble up from the depths, like maybe you wake up in a cold sweat from a wildly vivid mythological dream, you're experiencing what Jung called the numinous. It's this deeply powerful, mystical force that just leaves you in a state of absolute awe. It can be kind of terrifying, for sure, but it's also incredibly healing. It acts as a catalyst, unlocking the primal psychic energy you need to handle life's most overwhelming challenges. And that leads us perfectly into our final section, the ultimate psychological milestone, individuation. Here is something that surprises a lot of people. Reaching the highest level of consciousness has absolutely nothing to do with being perfectly happy or constantly positive all the time. According to Jung, the goal of life isn't happiness, it's wholeness. This is individuation. It's a lifelong process of self-realization. It's a heroic and, sometimes tragic task where you have to integrate the conscious and unconscious parts of your mind to discover your own unique unity. To pull this off, you need a massive internal power shift. Your conscious ego, that part of you that says I and desperately wants to believe it's in charge, has to drop its delusion of control. It has to wake up and realize it is not the center of the universe. The ego literally has to surrender its dominion and bow down to the greater personality within you, the self. Your ego becomes the servant to this much larger totality.
So, what does reaching this pinnacle actually look like? Well, you'll feel massive internal shifts. You're finally synthesizing your conscious thoughts with those deep, unconscious urges. You're reconciling your inner light with your inner darkness instead of running away from the shadow. Plus, and this is a big one, you stop projecting your own flaws onto your partner, your boss, or society. You withdraw those emotional projections entirely. And ultimately, you find that perfect balance, connecting your own personal life story with the vast, ancient collective experience of humanity.
Jung actually loved to compare this whole psychological peak to the ancient art of alchemy. Just like alchemists tirelessly tried to transform raw, chaotic lead into pure gold, the process of individuation is about transforming the raw chaos of your basic instincts into the pure gold of self-realization. It's all about taking those warring opposites inside of you and finally bringing them into peace. As you reflect on this incredible psychological roadmap, it's vital to remember that true consciousness isn't just some magical gift you're handed. It's a massive responsibility. It demands that you stop blaming the outside world and start looking fiercely inward. So, I'll leave you with this question. Are you brave enough to melt down your societal mask, step into the absolute darkness to meet your shadow, and finally sculpt your true, unified self? Think about it, and let that answer guide your own journey to wholeness.